Hello, and welcome to the Tradeshift Sanctuary in Davos, Switzerland. I'm Travis Bickham, and Tradeshift is partnering with CNBC to bring you a week's worth of content with exceptional thought leaders and experts during the World Economic Forum. I'm here today with Thjis Stalenhoef, who's SVP of Enterprise Product at Tradeshift, and we're going to talk a little bit about ultimately what your goals are with Tradeshift and how you think about product design. So thank you for joining.
Very happy to be here.
Let's start at the very beginning. What is Tradeshift trying to accomplish, and how does our software play into that?
So I think the core principle of Tradeshift is really to connect every business on the planet, right? Enable them to do business online in the most friction-free way possible. And almost as a direct result of that, it becomes this democratizing concept, right? Leveling the playing field and so on. And once you start thinking about software along those lines, I think there's a lot of different things that follow on from that very naturally. So you'll start to see that it's not just about focusing on buyers that have, large setups, have a lot of buying power, but you actually also focus on the supplier side of the equation, making sure that they're not just there because they're being forced to, but because they want to be, because they can expand their business in doing so. I think another aspect to that same thing as well is if you want to democratize business, you need to go all the way down to the level of the individual, right? It's not just about companies. Companies are made up out of individuals. Your people are your most important asset. And if you forget them in that equation, it won't work. And so if you design software for corporations rather than for individuals, what you're going to do is you're going to build software that is all about control. And your users essentially become, for lack of a better word, enslaved.
Wow. And what does that process look like when you're putting the user first and the product is going through the design phases?
There's many ways it actually hooks in, right? It becomes a sort of second nature after a while, so it can sometimes actually be hard to explain because it becomes such a core way of how you think about things. But I think one of the ways that we try to look at it at Tradeshift is, what's that user's day like, right? What are they trying to achieve? They're not trying to achieve, the approval of an invoice. That's not a business outcome, right? But you look at some of the competitors, that's what they are aiming for, right? They're aiming for lowest possible cost of transaction. They're not adding value anywhere into the mix. And it's exactly that, adding of value that users and people at the end of the day are good at. All the rest of it is stuff that is going to be automated. We've been here at Davos, we've seen loads of different sessions. We've hosted a few here at Tradeshift and CNBC, around AI and all of the automation that follows from that. Most of the processes that we now think of as business are going to be completely automated. But it's where those processes run aground, it's where those processes need to be improved, that you need to bring in people again. So, focusing on that and enabling them to more easily collaborate, to achieve the business outcomes that they have in mind, I think is one of the things you need to put first when you start there.
I would assume, based on the mentality you just described, you probably get a lot of satisfaction from seeing people actually benefit from your work. What's been one of your favorite things you've worked on?
Actually, we're doing a lot around very nice real-time collaboration, and that's just been really amazing to see. I mean, you go out to customers and you show this off, and you have users actually try it, and they instantly take to it. They know how it works. Right, they're used to it on their iPhones and Android phones to be able to do chats and so on. But we add all the business context into the mix. We add applications into the chat. They can actually follow where they are in the process or spawn off new processes that way. And they, you actually see them reach out to people and ask them for help. Whereas before, a process dictates you must do this and this and this, and these people need to be involved. And now they all of a sudden have a much more collaborative way of working. And it clearly empowers them. Right? So instead of looking at it from the point of view, since we've, pretty much everybody has been doing since the Industrial Revolution, right? Build a process and essentially take the human and make it into a worker unit that you can easily replace. And now you're kind of finally breaking with that model whereby, you can bring the individual back. They can have their own focus, their own goals, because they know what's good for the business, right? And if they don't, they shouldn't be there. You have to assume that the people that work for you, if you're doing a good job as a leader of a company, that they are assets. But you're still treating them as worker units in a process that has been poured into concrete and is immovable. And that's the sort of thing you want to break with. It's almost like that famous Apple 1984 commercial, right, with the runner coming up and swinging a big hammer into the Big Brother screen, right? It's that type of thing, and that's enormously satisfaction. Gives them a lot of satisfaction working on stuff like that.
I think I already know the answer to this based on the discussion so far, but you have an enterprise paradigm in terms of the work you do, but how inspired are you by what other B2C companies are doing and the user experience they provide?
I think we're very much inspired by that. I mean, it is what everybody's using. It is most people's idea of what technology is. We talk a lot about, for example, millennials coming into the workforce. They're used to this. They've been, grown up with this type of technology, iPhones and, WeChat and whatever else. And they come into an enterprise and they're being presented with something they've never seen before. And that maybe some of the older people that might be watching this will recognize as something that looks like Windows 95, right? And it's completely alien to them. And even something in terms of a purchasing process in a company isn't something that registers for them at all. It's like you punch a button and the stuff gets delivered after a day or two, right? Or in the case of Amazon in the US, maybe even within the hour.
Sure.
And all of a sudden you have this thing in a process and you have to log into some thing that you don't really recognize and you have to go through it. And as a result, they don't use it. They try to find ways around that system. So yeah, I think for us to actually go back and say, how can we apply that is hugely important. But it goes way further than that. So you can't just say, hey, here is a process, we'll slap a very pretty face on it, and that's it. Right? And I've heard, unfortunately, I actually heard some executives here talk about fintech at Davos as, oh, this is perfect for improving the user experience. But banking products as a whole aren't really going to change. They've been the same forever. And I was really taken aback by that statement. I was like, that just doesn't work. You want to put the user first, you want to talk about user experience, you need to go out of your way, all the way back to what's the core principle here, what are we trying to achieve? And you may need to re-engineer the entire thing end to end just to create a small improvement in usability. So it's not just about nicer pixels or better layout or making it responsive to fit it on a mobile. You may need to simply take the very core of what you're trying to do and swap it out for something new. I mean, Uber didn't just create a better way of ordering a taxi, right? They said, well, actually, that's a marketplace, and people can participate, and it's this whole new thing now. And I think that's exactly the type of thinking that you need to have.
Agreed. Last question. I want to tie all this back into the theme for the week, the World Economic Forum, which is responsive and responsible leadership. As someone who's not only a leader in your field, but also in your company, what traits do you seek to embody, and what do you respect in others?
Oh, that's a very good question. And maybe to start with the latter, I think people that are able to see different aspects and are able to sort of take problems and turn them on their head, I think is an amazing quality that people have, right? Being able to actually go beyond an immediate solution. I think many people, and in all honesty, mostly men, have the tendency to go immediately into solution mode, right? Instead of actually looking at the whole world around you and trying to take in as much points of view as possible, you have this notion, okay, here's a problem, we need to get it out of the way, right? So actually people are able to embody that and say, hey, we can, men and women, actually take in a lot more input before actually moving forward, and continuing to do so along the way, I think is really great. And then I think one of the things we tend to say in Tradeshift is that the job of a leader is to create more leaders. So that has a lot to do with finding out who these potential future leaders are, recognizing the talent, and giving the opportunity. And we've done that a lot in Tradeshift. We've put people in positions that maybe somebody from the outside would say, why would you give this person with next to no experience this crazy position? And we find that time and again, these people, they step up to the plate. They grow and they become really strong leaders, and sometimes in actually really rapid time as well. So that ability to spot that in others and not to be afraid of your own position, in a sense, being undermined by other strong people joining, I think is key.
Very well put, and thank you for your insights. This has been another interview at the Tradeshift Sanctuary on the future of software and product design. Thank you.